Before this begins, one important thing. This story is pure fiction. It is not official lore, and nothing here is confirmed. It is simply an imagined story told slowly for entertainment. The idea started earlier that day during training. Classes had ended later than usual and everyone was tired. The drills dragged on. The instructors repeated the same lessons they had heard 100 times before. By the time the sun began to lower behind the arena walls, most students were already thinking about leaving. That was when someone mentioned it. The school had older sections, parts of the building that were no longer used during regular training, classrooms that stayed locked, storage halls that hadn't been opened in years. There were rumors, of course. There always were. Some said the building was bigger than it looked. Others claimed sounds could be heard at night, even when no one was inside. Most laughed it off, but the idea stayed. After training officially ended, a small group decided to stay behind, not for any serious reason. Mostly curiosity, mostly boredom. They told themselves they would explore a little, look around, then leave before it got too late. The barbarian said he'd gone through worse places. The Valkyrie shrugged, saying it was just stone and shadows. The musketeer wanted to check the upper classrooms anyway. The firecracker thought it would be funny. The bomber just didn't want to walk home alone. No one thought it was dangerous. As evening settled in, the school slowly emptied. Footsteps faded. Voices disappeared down the paths leading back to the arena. Torches along the walls burned lower, casting longer shadows. The building felt different without noise, not scary, just quiet. They moved deeper inside, laughing softly, opening doors, peeking into empty rooms. Old desks, unused equipment. Dust settled thick on the floors. Time passed without them noticing. It wasn't until the torches flickered that someone realized how late it had become. They talked about leaving. That's when the sound came. A scrape. Slow. Heavy. At first they thought it was the building settling. Old stone always made noise at night. But then it happened again. Closer. The laughter stopped. They stood still, listening. The sound came from deeper inside the school. That was when unease replaced curiosity. They agreed it was better to check quickly and then leave. No one wanted to admit they were nervous, but no one wanted to be alone either. They decided to split up to cover ground faster. The barbarian took the lower hallway, confident and eager to prove nothing bothered him. The musketeer went upstairs to make sure no one else was still inside. The Valkyrie moved toward the storage wing, keeping an eye on the side passages. The firecracker and the bomber stayed near the main hall, watching the corridors and waiting. At first, nothing happened. The school creaked softly around them. Torches flickered. Shadows shifted. Then the barbarian noticed movement. The classroom door at the end of the hallway moved slightly. He called out, asking if anyone was there. No answer. He stepped closer, and then the scream echoed through the school. Sharp, sudden, terrified. It wasn't the barbarian. It was the firecracker. Everyone ran. Boots slammed against stone floors. Weapons were drawn. Breathing turned frantic. They reached the hallway together. The firecracker stood frozen near the wall, unable to speak. Further down the corridor, the barbarian lay still, his sword just out of reach. No one moved at first. Shock filled the space. The Valkyrie knelt beside him, her expression hardening. The musketeer turned away, forcing herself to stay calm. The bomber swallowed, his usual humor gone. Whatever had been hiding in the school was no longer a rumor. They regrouped in the main hall, voices low, fear turning into determination. They couldn't leave it like this. They made a plan. They would draw it out, corner it, end it. The firecracker created noise to lure it closer. The bomber prepared controlled blasts to block exits. The musketeer covered long corridors. The Valkyrie took the lead, forcing it where they wanted. It worked. For a brief moment, they saw it clearly. The goblin brawler, cornered, furious, no longer laughing. The fight was short and chaotic. Explosions echoed, then silence. By morning, they left the school together, sealing off the lower halls behind them. The building reopened days later. Classes continued, but some areas stayed locked, and no one ever suggested exploring the school at night again.